I tried a case with Tommy, and it was
Welcome
very
back to That's
enjoyable.
Politics. Appreciate you joining us. We're welcoming Martha Williams, candidate for circuit judge. I'll get this right this time here. I'm sorry. Republican candidate. Good morning to you, Martha.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
You know, this is one of those jobs that you can't talk a lot about or what your positions are on things because you'd have to reference cases maybe and the decisions made by other judges, and it's hard to run for a job like this, isn't it?
Well, in some ways, I guess it is, because I think a lot of times the public is not going to have an interaction with the court system, and probably that's a good thing because most people that come before the court do have some kind of problem or issue that needs to be resolved. But I've been here for all my life. I was born in Coleman and grew up here, went to school here, and raised my daughter Lucy here, and have had a private practice after I graduated from the University of Alabama. I came back here after clerking with the Court of Civil Appeals and started a law practice and did that for 23 years. So I've met a lot of people in Coleman County and dealt with them. And then for the past 7 years, I've been a prosecutor for the district attorney's office.
My goodness. And that was a job that I understand you to say that you had to resign from in order to make a
Yes, I
run for
did.
this
Had to
office.
resign, give up the job, and I love that job, and I love working with those people. But this is so important to me. I knew that this was what I needed to do. So I gave up that position, and I'm asking the people in Coleman County to let me be their next circuit judge.
How would you explain, this is a question that I didn't ask the last candidate for circuit judge that we interviewed, but how would you explain the difference? What is the difference between a Republican's candidate or judge compared to a Democrat's in terms of philosophy or anything else? How would you distinguish yourself from the Democrat side?
Well, ideally, there shouldn't be any difference.
Right.
And for me, there wouldn't be any difference. I would expect that once I'm sitting behind that bench, you wouldn't be able to tell what my political affiliation is.
Right.
That's what I would hope. And what I would bring to the bench is 30 years of experience, and I think Tom and Judge Burleson have known me really since I started to practice. And I think they know that I've earned a reputation for being fair and honest. And that's what I would bring to the bench. I actually have more experience than any of the other candidates seeking this position.
That's a big responsibility,
It
isn't
is.
it? I mean, to
It is.
have people's lives in your hands, basically,
Absolutely.
in essence, right? And I don't know, I've never interviewed Frank Bruner or Don Hardiman to find out how many sleepless nights they might have had, but you have to turn it loose occasionally, I'm sure. But
Well, actually, I did, in a way, interview both of them because I know that sometimes people will run for offices because they want to have the title of that office. And yes, if I would be the quote judge, but what I want more than anything is to do what a judge does. And so when I was determining whether or not this was the time to go for this position, I did spend quite a bit of time talking with both of our judges to see what they liked and disliked and what changes they would make if they had that opportunity, because I really did want to know what is it that I would be doing for my community, not just what title would I have.
I guess if you're going to run for a judge's position, would this be we had Terry William Thomas, who was a judge here. Would you be the second?
I guess
possibly?
I would be the second female judge, but I would be, as far as I know, the first female circuit judge.
Right.
But again, I'm not sure that should make any difference either.
Right. But there are a lot more women running for office
There
now
are.
than there were
There really
10,
are.
15 years ago.
I
it
think
seems
that's
like.
wonderful.
What does a woman bring? Does a woman bring normally more compassion?
Well, I don't know. I
job
think
like
that's
that?
probably a function of someone's individual personality. In my own case, I have dealt with a lot of issues where I think that is an asset to be able to truly listen to what someone, has to say. My experience is that most of the time, if an issue is not properly resolved, if it's a family issue in particular, often it's because the litigants involved don't perceive that anyone has actually listened to them, that they have felt not empowered. And I've been told that I have a talent for doing that, for listening to folks. On the other hand, I'm not reluctant to make a quick decision if that's what's necessary, and some things are yes or no answers. So
Now,
I think it'll be a great challenge, and I'm looking forward to it.
how many? About 6 running in this race.
There are
is that
6.
correct?
That's correct.
Well, now, I'm going to tell you something that I've seen since I've been around here in politics, and that's been about 50 years. That
We don't have to talk about how
that the
long.
women have advantage over the men in running for office in Coleman County has been my experience.
You think so? Well, I hope that you're right, Tom.
They hadn't in that position. She's the first one.
Well, I know, but that's been my experience. That women have the advantage.
Well, if the viewers are listening to Tom,
I mean, that's just been my experience.
It would, whenever you have a high-profile case, for example, while you're out there politicking, Martha, and you're talking with groups and individuals, are you asked the question that I was asked when I was running for chairman of the county commission? Do you believe in abortion? Because I said, look, I'm running for chairman, not pope. I don't know where people come up with those kind of thoughts, but
well, I have been asked some fairly pointed questions,
Right.
and as you've pointed out before, that's not something that a judge, candidate
Right.
should get into in terms of what a ruling might be in a given case, because everything depends on the facts that come before you in that particular case, and no 2 cases are ever exactly alike.
how would you, Martha? How would you? What poses the circumstances that would cause a judge, if you like yourself, if you're elected, to recuse yourself because you knew the people, or because you would know them, or something? Or
Well,
what?
there are certain things that require recusal under the statutes, and one is a degree of kinship. I think it's 4th degree of kinship, something like that. I would have to check that for you. But some of it deals with a relationship like that. For instance, my brother, Roy, would not be able to practice in my courtroom, or at least I would not be able to sit on his cases.
Right.
As far as any other kind of conflict, I think that just depends, again, on the circumstances of the individual situation. If there were a situation where it would appear that someone would have an advantage because I knew them or because of some common relationship that we had, or if I felt in my heart that I could not be impartial in a given case, then it would be my duty to recuse. But it's not something that a judge should do lightly or frequently, because when I take the bench, I'm going to take the position that I've been hired by the county of Coleman to make those decisions. So you can't sidestep it. If you're in a position to actually make the decision, you need to make the decision according to the law.
Well, now, I got a question I want to ask you. Do you believe that we have enough cases and everything to have a 3rd judge here, circuit judge?
A 3rd circuit judge?
Yeah. Are we getting close to that point?
I think maybe so, Tom.
Yeah.
I know our office, I think, processed, and I was talking about the district attorney's office,
Right.
when I was working with them. Toward the end of this year, it was looking like we would have approximately 1,100 felony cases, which is a lot. And, of course, the circuit judge doesn't deal with all of those because some of them will be resolved in the district court. But my experience, having just come from working in the courthouse, is that the courtrooms are being used pretty much all of the time. I don't know what the criteria is according to the legislature in terms of how many cases you have to have.
Well, the numbers,
Exactly.
makes it up, yeah.
And but with the budget, cutbacks and everything
Be a
now,
little hard now to get one.
yeah, we might be eligible. I'm not sure we could get the funding. So, but that's a matter for the legislature. So.
Well, speaking of the legislature, they're having to consider now, the laws and the number of prisoners in the penitentiary. And an effort's underway to try to figure out how to deal with this because they're overcrowded. California had to release so many prisoners because they were ordered to. Some of the prisoners filed a lawsuit and won, saying they weren't getting proper treatment
Yes.
as a prisoner. So Alabama has many more prisoners, is my understanding, than what California had per prison. So we're susceptible, unfortunately, to that kind of thing. It must be difficult being a judge, sending them south and then turning around and watching them come north.
Well, I'm sure that that's frustrating for the judge.
Right.
I know that as a prosecutor, it was often frustrating. But that, again, if you have a job to do, then you need to do your job. And that issue is really one that the legislature should take up, because that is, in almost all respects, a funding issue, because there's just not a place for housing the folks that need to be either kept from society or punished or given an opportunity for rehabilitation, because those are really the three things that you look for when you're sentencing someone.
Martha, now aren't they planning on maybe releasing, no telling how many prisoners?
I saw an article in the
Hundreds
paper
of
about
prisoners
that.
they're going to release.
The article that I saw had some quotes from Max Bartlett, who is the chief deputy down there.
Yeah.
And he indicated that, at least according to the article, that he did not think that anything like that was imminent, and I certainly hope that he's correct. We have a beautiful new facility, as you all know,
Right.
and that's been a wonderful thing for our county, particularly because it has a place for juveniles
Yeah.
also.
He
But I
said
don't-
they had space to take care of them, didn't
we do, and
Yeah.
we have some federal prisoners that are housed there also. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll just be honest with you. I don't know how close we might be to having to deal with that particular issue. But whatever it is, if
You
we're
gotta deal
told we
with
have to do it, then we'll have to do
Well,
it.
I know once before we have let prisoners out when they got overcrowded and so forth, and what they do is they try to get the ones with lesser offenses,
That's right,
not
Tom.
going to get out here and kill somebody.
Sure.
So they're very careful about who they let out.
But they're talking now about they may have to release hundreds of them.
Well, we've done that before.
Let me ask you this. We have a little bit less than a minute here. Tell us, in your words, why people should vote for Martha Williams for circuit judge.
Well, I have had 30 years of experience in the law, and I have dealt with virtually every aspect of the law that a lawyer could deal with, including family matters, civil, workers' compensation, bankruptcy, Social Security claims, juvenile court, jury trials, both civil and criminal, and that's from the defense side and the prosecution side. I've argued, presented oral arguments before all three of our state appellate courts, from teacher tenure to capital murder. I've had extensive training in mediation for domestic, advanced domestic, civil, and even appellate mediation. I have more. I can bring more experience to the bench than any other candidate in this race, and I think I have the temperament. And I think if you ask your colleagues, they will confirm that I have the respect, I believe, of the Bar Association, which is an important thing, and I will listen to the people that come before me.
I'd like to also point out that she has a brother that's my doctor. That's not only
It all adds up.
he's a lawyer and a doctor.
Hey, we're out of time. Thank you, Martha, for coming
Thank
to
you.
see us.
Martha,
this
we're out
morning.
of time, but temperament of a judge is very important.
I think
It's
so.
important that the judges treat people when they go into their court with courtesy and all that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, folks. Got to go. We'll see you next week for Day on 2. That's Politics.